Today is February 20th. It's the 51st day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. Those of you who are regular listeners know that we've been doing some reprise episodes, if you will, this month, new recordings of mostly previous content. This story today is one of the more intriguing stories of the entire year, as far as I'm concerned. So if you've heard it before, I hope you enjoy hearing it again, and if you haven't heard it before, please put the car in park, put the razor down, close the Facebook page, pop in the earbuds, and enjoy. In 1987, Gary Wright parks his car behind the computer store he owns in Salt Lake City, Utah. When he gets out of his car on this day, he sees a small package on the ground. It looks a little odd, with nails sticking out of it. He doesn't want anyone to run over it or get hurt stepping on it, so he bends down to pick it up. Recalling that moment, he says, quote, "I could almost feel it click, and then there was this intense feeling of pressure. It kicked me back 20 feet. The explosion propels him across the parking lot and embeds hundreds of nails and slivers of wood in his body." What Wright doesn't know at the time is that he's been randomly targeted by a reclusive loner named Ted Kaczynski, who before he's identified by authorities, is known only as the University and Airlines bomber. For his first targets, Northwestern University in Chicago and American Airlines. Or as the press calls him, the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski is a pretty smart guy. He attends Harvard at the age of 16, where he participates in a study by psychologist Henry Murray that is described as a, quote, "purposely brutalizing psychological experiment in which the subject's personal beliefs and dreams are disparaged by an anonymous authority figure." The experiment is allegedly part of CIA's top-secret MK-Ultra program. After Harvard, Kaczynski receives a PhD in mathematics from Michigan, and then accepts a position as an assistant professor of mathematics at UC Berkeley. But teaching is not for him. In fact, being around people is not for him. So in 1971, he retreats to the woods of Montana, builds a 10-foot by 12-foot one-room cabin, and begins to stew about the modern world, land development, and the dangers of what he calls the industrial technological system. And he builds a bomb, which he mails to Northwestern University in May of 1978. On the morning of this day in 1987, one of Gary Wright's employees at the computer store looks out a window into the parking lot and watches a man who's standing just a few feet away. She will later describe the man to a police sketch artist as having a scraggly face and wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and sunglasses. As she watches him place a small wooden box on the ground next to a car, she wonders, what the hell's that guy doing? But then a phone rings, and she turns her focus back to work. Not too long after that, Gary Wright pulls into the parking lot. It isn't until 1995, when the Washington Post and the New York Times published the Unabomber's 35,000-word manifesto, entitled Industrial Society and Its Future, that David Kaczynski recognizes the anti-technology writings that he's been receiving from his brother Ted for over 20 years. David contacts the FBI and tells them he believes his brother Ted is the Unabomber. In April 1996, FBI agents trek out to that tiny cabin in the woods and arrest Ted Kaczynski for 16 bombings and 3 murders. Kaczynski receives 8 life sentences without the possibility of parole, and now resides in beautiful Florence, Colorado, at the Supermax prison in a 7-foot by 12-foot cell that's just about the right size for him. After his arrest, his brother David Kaczynski wrestles with guilt over having betrayed his brother, but more so, he struggles to come to terms with the harm his brother has done. So he reaches out to the victims and families of the victims to try to make amends, or at least to find some way to cope. And through this process, David Kaczynski strikes up an unlikely friendship with a man his brother tried to kill, Gary Wright. Over the years, their friendship grows. They travel and vacation together, and they become best friends. More than best friends, they become like brothers to each other. A bond that is inevitable the moment Gary Wright decides to pick up that strange wooden box in the parking lot. On this day, in 1987. There are 315 days left in the year.